Welcome to Globewise Entertainment, the place where forgotten classics, hidden gems, and untold Hollywood stories come back to life. Today, we're diving into the 10 incredible 80s movie masterpieces nobody talks about. From groundbreaking dramas to overlooked cinematic treasures, these films prove the 80s weren't just about blockbusters. They were about bold storytelling that still deserves recognition. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, make sure you hit that button right now so you never miss out on Hollywood's best-kept secrets. And don't forget, tell us in the comments which of these underrated 80s masterpieces is your favorite. 1. The Manhattan Project, 1986. The teen who built a nuke. In the golden era of the 1980s, audiences were obsessed with Cold War thrillers, but few films dared to tackle nuclear fear with the daring imagination of the Manhattan Project. Released in 1986, this overlooked gem tells the story of Paul Stevens, a brilliant high school student who stumbles upon a top-secret government facility disguised as an innocent laboratory. Curious and fearless, Paul discovers that the lab is producing weapons-grade plutonium. But instead of alerting authorities, he decides to prove just how dangerous unchecked science can be by secretly building his own working atomic bomb for a science fair project. What follows is a suspenseful game of cat and mouse as Paul outsmarts the government, sneaks plutonium out of a high-security facility, and comes terrifyingly close to detonating his creation. What makes the Manhattan Project so fascinating is its blend of teen rebellion and nuclear-age paranoia. It's part war games and part political thriller, reflecting the very real anxieties of the 80s when the Cold War loomed large and nuclear weapons were constantly in the headlines. Yet beneath the tension, the film carries a powerful message. Intelligence without responsibility can be just as dangerous as the weapons themselves. Despite its gripping premise and strong performances, especially from Christopher Collett as Paul and John Lithgow as the sympathetic scientist, it never reached the popularity of other 80s blockbusters. Overshadowed by flashier titles, the Manhattan Project slipped through the cracks. But today, it feels more relevant than ever, asking unsettling questions about youth, power, and the ethics of science. This forgotten thriller is a masterpiece that deserves to be revisited, not just as a piece of Cold War cinema, but as a reminder of how easily ambition and curiosity can turn into something truly dangerous. 2. Street Trash, 1987. Now, if you thought the 80s couldn't get any wilder when it came to horror, Street Trash, 1987, will make you think again. This cult gem isn't just a horror film, it's a grimly hilarious descent into the underground world of urban decay, sleaze, and unforgettable gore. The story centers on a group of homeless drifters in New York who discover a mysterious case of cheap alcohol called Viper. But here's the catch: anyone who drinks it literally melts into a puddle of Technicolor slime. What follows is a bizarre, grotesque, and often darkly comedic series of events that mixes horror, satire, and jaw-dropping practical effects. What makes Street Trash so incredible is its unflinching attitude. It doesn't just scare, it pushes boundaries, reflecting the chaos and hopelessness of the Reagan-era streets, while still delivering the kind of insane splatter that fans of 80s exploitation cinema crave. Director J. Michael Murrow, who later worked as a Steadicam operator on major Hollywood blockbusters, created something raw and unpolished here that still feels unique. While critics at the time didn't quite know what to make of it, today Street Trash has a devoted cult following, praised for its practical effects, anarchic humor, and over-the-top social commentary. It's a movie that couldn't be made today, and that's exactly what makes it unforgettable. In short, Street Trash isn't just another gore fest. It's a satirical, shocking, and strangely artistic snapshot of 1980s underground cinema. If you love horror movies that push every limit, this is one 80s masterpiece that deserves way more recognition. 3. Turk 182. 1985. In the mid-1980s, audiences were captivated by larger-than-life heroes like Rambo and Indiana Jones, but Turk 182 gave us a very different kind of underdog story. Released in 1985, this overlooked gem blends drama, comedy, and social commentary into one unforgettable ride. The film follows Jimmy Lynch, played by Timothy Hutton, a young man who takes on City Hall after his firefighter brother is badly injured saving a child, only to be denied financial support by corrupt officials. Fueled by anger and determination, Jimmy reinvents himself as the mysterious graffiti artist, Turk 182. With nothing more than spray paint, wit, and courage, he exposes the hypocrisy of the city's mayor, sparking a movement that captures the public's imagination. What makes this movie so powerful is how it takes the spirit of the 1980s, defiance, creativity, and a fight for justice, and channels it through an ordinary man who becomes a folk hero. It's not about guns or explosions, it's about one voice standing up against a broken system, proving that sometimes the pen, or in this case, the spray can, is mightier than the sword. While Turk 182 didn't receive the blockbuster status of other 80s classics, it's a hidden masterpiece that deserves more recognition. Today, it feels almost ahead of its time, echoing themes of activism, government accountability, and the power of art as protest. This is the kind of movie that makes you want to cheer for the underdog and believe that one person really can make a difference. If you're diving back into the 80s and searching for films with both heart and bite, Turk 182 is an unmissable rediscovery. For Legacy of Rage, 1986. The forgotten martial arts gem. When people think of iconic martial arts movies from the 1980s, names like Jackie Chan and Jet Li usually dominate the conversation. But buried deep in the vaults of Hong Kong cinema lies a hidden masterpiece that many have overlooked, Legacy of Rage, 1986, the only starring role of Brandon Lee, the son of the legendary Bruce Lee. At just 21 years old, Brandon Lee was stepping out of his father's massive shadow, eager to prove he was more than just Bruce Lee's son. And with Legacy of Rage, he did just that. The movie tells the story of a young man wrongfully imprisoned after being betrayed by his best friend, a gritty tale of revenge, loyalty, and explosive action. But what really makes this film stand out is Brandon himself. Unlike his father's traditional martial arts films, Legacy of Rage blends kung fu, gunplay, and raw emotion, creating a unique hybrid that foreshadowed the kind of action Hollywood would later embrace in the 90s. You can see hints of the charisma and star power that would have made Brandon Lee one of the greatest action heroes of his generation, had tragedy not struck with The Crow years later. The film didn't get much exposure outside of Asia, and many casual movie fans never even heard of it. Yet, critics who rediscover it today call it a hidden action masterpiece of the 80s. It's gritty, stylish, and filled with the kind of over-the-top energy that defined Hong Kong action cinema. For anyone who loves classic 80s revenge thrillers, martial arts legends, and stories of stars gone too soon, Legacy of Rage is more than just a movie, it's a glimpse of what Brandon Lee's legacy could have become. This is the type of forgotten gem we love to highlight here on Globewise Entertainment. If you enjoy discovering underrated classics like this, don't forget to subscribe, because we're just getting started with more incredible hidden treasures from cinema history. 5. Looker, 1981. In the early 80s, when Hollywood was experimenting with futuristic themes, director Michael Crichton, the same visionary who gave us Jurassic Park and Westworld, released a film that was way ahead of its time. Looker, 1981. On the surface, it looks like a stylish sci-fi thriller about glamorous models and high-tech beauty standards. But beneath the neon glow, Looker predicted a world we're living in today, one where digital manipulation, artificial perfection, and media control blur the line between reality and illusion. The story follows a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon who discovers that his model patients are mysteriously disappearing after undergoing perfecting surgeries. Soon, he stumbles into a sinister corporate conspiracy involving digital simulations of real people, eerily foreshadowing today's deepfakes and CGI influencers. At its release, Looker puzzled critics and underwhelmed at the box office. But in hindsight, it feels chillingly prophetic. The film showcased dazzling special effects for its time, including computer-generated human models and light-based weapons, visuals that were decades ahead of mainstream Hollywood. More than just a sci-fi thriller, Looker exposed the dangers of a media-driven world obsessed with perfection, control, and manufactured reality. In today's age of AI, social media filters, and digital doubles, this forgotten gem hits harder than ever. That's why Looker isn't just a quirky artifact from the 80s, it's a cautionary masterpiece that deserves a second look. 6. Liquid Sky, 1982. The neon underground cult classic. In 1982, New York's art scene exploded with creativity, rebellion, and a hunger for something new, and out of this electric atmosphere came Liquid Sky, one of the most bizarre and unforgettable cult films of the decade. This wasn't your typical Hollywood production. Instead, Liquid Sky embraced the underground world of punk fashion, electronic music, and avant-garde performance art. The story follows Margaret, a bisexual model living in Manhattan, whose life is turned upside down when tiny, invisible aliens land on her rooftop. But here's the shocking twist. These aliens feed on human orgasms, and their victims die in a flash of light. More than just sci-fi weirdness, the film became a razor-sharp commentary on the drug culture, bold politics, and excess of the 1980s. Shot on a shoestring budget, Liquid Sky turned its limitations into strengths, with neon colors, experimental synthesizer music, and surreal visuals that captured the gritty heartbeat of New York City's underground. While it was never a mainstream hit, Liquid Sky developed a fierce cult following, especially in Europe and among art house audiences. Today, it stands as one of the boldest and strangest indie films of the 80s, a movie that dared to break every rule while capturing the era's raw energy like nothing else. So if you're ready for a masterpiece that's part sci-fi, part fashion statement, and part social critique, Liquid Sky is one forgotten gem that proves the 1980s were about more than just blockbusters. They were also about fearless experiments that left a permanent mark on cinema history. 7. The Mission, 1986. In the mid-1980s, Hollywood released a film that wasn't just entertainment, it was a haunting meditation on faith, morality, and the collision between empires. The Mission, 1986, directed by Roland Joff, tells the story of a Spanish Jesuit priest, Father Gabriel, played by the legendary Jeremy Irons, who journeys deep into the South American jungle to establish a mission among the indigenous Guarani people. But the story's emotional weight truly soars when Robert De Niro enters the picture as Rodrigo Mendoza, a mercenary and slave trader who, burdened with guilt after a tragic act of violence, seeks redemption in the very village he once exploited. The dynamic between Irons and De Niro, one man embodying spiritual conviction, the other fighting for inner forgiveness, creates some of the most powerful and heart-wrenching moments of 80s cinema. The film is as visually breathtaking as it is emotionally devastating. With the mighty Iguazu Falls as its backdrop, every frame feels like a painting, and Ennio Morricone's musical score, particularly the iconic piece, Gabriel's Oboe, remains one of the greatest compositions in film history. It's the kind of music that lingers in your soul long after the credits roll. Beyond its artistry, The Mission delivers a searing moral question. When faith, politics, and greed collide, what truly prevails, love and compassion, or conquest and power? Tragically, the story reflects real history, where European powers fought over both territory and souls, leaving behind a legacy of struggle for indigenous peoples. While it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes and even secured an Academy Award for cinematography, The Mission somehow faded into the shadows of mainstream movie conversations. Yet, it stands as one of the most profound and visually stunning films of the 1980s, a masterpiece that still resonates today with its timeless message about humanity, sacrifice, and the cost of conscience. Have you ever watched a movie so powerful that it feels less like cinema and more like a spiritual experience? That's The Mission, a forgotten gem of the 80s that deserves a second life. 8. Atlantic City, 1980. The forgotten urban masterpiece. When we think of the 1980s, big-budget blockbusters and flashy action films usually come to mind. But tucked away at the very start of the decade lies a subtle, haunting gem, Louis Malle's Atlantic City, 1980. Unlike the neon-colored spectacles that followed, this film whispered its brilliance through mood, character, and melancholy beauty. The story follows Lou Pascal, played by Hollywood legend Burt Lancaster in one of his finest late-career performances. Lou is an aging small-time numbers runner, a man who once brushed shoulders with the golden age of gangsters but is now fading away with the crumbling city around him. His life takes a turn when he becomes entangled with Sally, a young woman played by Susan Sarandon, who dreams of escaping her dead-end world by training to be a blackjack dealer. What makes Atlantic City extraordinary is how it mirrors the decay and rebirth of the city itself. The backdrop isn't just scenery, it's a character. We see the dying old boardwalk casinos being demolished while new ones rise, a perfect metaphor for Lou's desperate attempt to reclaim a taste of the glory days. Critics raved about the film, and it went on to receive 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, and acting nods for both Lancaster and Sarandon. Yet, despite this recognition, the movie somehow slipped out of the mainstream spotlight. Perhaps it lacked the flashy marketing of its blockbuster peers, or maybe its quiet, character-driven storytelling didn't fit the decade's appetite for bigger, louder cinema. But for those who discover it, Atlantic City is pure gold. It's not just a crime drama, it's a poignant meditation on aging, longing, and the pursuit of second chances, set against a city caught between decay and rebirth. Lancaster's performance, in particular, is often described as one of the most moving of his career, charming, tragic, and unforgettable. If you've never seen it, Atlantic City is one of those hidden 1980s masterpieces that proves not all great films need explosions or special effects to leave a lasting impact. Sometimes, it's the quiet stories of broken dreams and unexpected redemption that resonate the most. Atlantic City may not have the fireworks of an 80s blockbuster, but it has something far more powerful: heart, atmosphere, and unforgettable performances. If you've seen it, let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if not, add it to your watch list. You won't regret it. 9. Night Shift, 1982. Before Michael Keaton became Batman and before Ron Howard became one of Hollywood's most respected directors, they teamed up for a quirky little gem called Night Shift. Released in 1982, this comedy doesn't always get mentioned among the greats of the decade, but it's a true hidden masterpiece. The story follows 2 unlikely morgue attendants, played by Henry Winkler and a then up-and-coming Michael Keaton, who stumble into the most bizarre side hustle imaginable. By day, they're just average guys working the graveyard shift. By night, they're running a, let's just say, very unique business operation out of the morgue, involving the world's oldest profession. What makes Night Shift so special isn't just the outrageous plot, it's the sheer charm of its cast and the smart, witty direction from Ron Howard. This was his breakout film as a director, and you can already see the heart and comedic timing that would define his career. Michael Keaton, meanwhile, absolutely steals the show with a chaotic, energetic performance that turned him into a rising star in the 80s. But beyond the laughs, Night Shift captures that early 80s energy, where cinema was bold enough to mix dark comedy with heartfelt character moments. It's one of those films that's hilarious, a little risky, but surprisingly sweet at its core. And yet, hardly anyone talks about it today. While it doesn't get the same recognition as other 80s comedies, Night Shift deserves a spot on your watch list. It's the kind of forgotten masterpiece that reminds us just how inventive and fearless the decade really was. If you've seen Night Shift, you know how underrated it is. If not, this is your sign to check out one of the funniest and strangest comedies of the 80s. 10. My Dinner with Andre, 1981. When people think of 1980s cinema, they often picture explosive action heroes, neon-colored sci-fi, or high-energy comedies. But one of the decade's most unexpected masterpieces is a quiet, 2-hour conversation over dinner. That's right. My Dinner with Andre, 1981, is unlike anything else from its era. The film is deceptively simple. Two men, actor-playwright Wallace Shawn and theater director Andre Gregory, sit down at a fancy New York restaurant. There's no car chase, no big special effects, no soundtrack booming in the background. Instead, the movie grips you with something far more powerful: raw human conversation. At first, Shawn represents the audience's perspective, practical, skeptical, and even a little uncomfortable with Gregory's sweeping, philosophical stories about life, death, art, and spirituality. But as the night goes on, what begins as small talk transforms into a deeply moving dialogue about what it really means to be alive in a world dominated by routine and conformity. The brilliance of the film is how it sneaks up on you. You don't expect a dinner table conversation to be more gripping than an action thriller, but it is. The script is so sharp and the performances so natural that you forget you're watching actors at all. It feels like you've been invited to sit at their table, eavesdropping on one of the most profound conversations of the 20th century. While it wasn't a blockbuster, My Dinner with Andre became a cult favorite among intellectuals, artists, and even college students who saw it as a challenge to think more deeply about their own lives. In an age of fast entertainment, this slow, dialogue-driven masterpiece feels even more powerful today. A reminder that sometimes the most incredible stories don't need explosions or big budgets. Why it matters. My Dinner with Andre shows us that a movie doesn't have to move fast to move us deeply. It's a timeless piece of cinema that proves conversation can be just as electrifying as spectacle. And there you have it, 10 incredible 80s movie masterpieces that deserve way more love than they've ever gotten. These films may not always make the spotlight, but each one left a lasting mark on cinema history. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, make sure you hit that button right now so you never miss our deep dives into hidden Hollywood treasures. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which of these underrated 80s films is your favorite? Or is there another forgotten masterpiece you think deserves to be on this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And don't go anywhere. Check out our other videos for more untold Hollywood stories and hidden classics you won't want to miss.